In the day's other news, the Supreme Court allowed a lawsuit to go forward against Remington Arms over the school shootings in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012. The company manufactures the AR-15 rifle that a gunman used to kill 20 first graders and 6 educators. We'll look at the details later in the program. At the Roger Stone trial, testimony today suggested that President Trump knew WikiLeaks would release emails from the Clinton campaign in 2016, something that he denies. But his former deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, that is the president's deputy campaign manager, testified today about a phone call between Stone and Mr. Trump, apparently involving an impending WikiLeaks release. Roger Stone is charged with witness tampering and lying to Congress. Closing arguments in the trial are tomorrow. The ousted president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, went into exile in Mexico today. He had resigned on Sunday under military pressure after weeks of protests over alleged fraud in his re-election. After landing in Mexico City, Morales called his ouster a coup. He vowed to continue the struggle and appeal for peace in Bolivia.
Hemos decidido renunciar por eso, pueblo.
I would like to say for there not to be any more bloodshed, more confrontations. We have decided to resign for the people. I would like to say to you, we are very grateful that the President of Mexico and the Bolivian people saved my life.
Bolivia's military has now sent troops into the streets of the capital, La Paz, to help restore order. Protesters in Hong Kong blocked traffic and battled police again today in a series of confrontations. Thousands flooded central Hong Kong and were met by police firing tear gas and rubber bullets. After nightfall, protesters burned barricades. The trouble came a day after a protester was shot dead by police and another man was set on fire. New violence erupted today between Israel and Islamic Jihad militants backed by Iran. Israeli airstrikes killed a senior commander of the group in Gaza, plus 8 others. The militants fired back with rockets reaching as far as Tel Aviv. There were no Israeli casualties. A second airstrike targeted an Islamic Jihad commander in Syria, but he survived. In Australia, dry conditions and high winds pushed ferocious wildfires into the suburbs of Sydney. In all, at least 85 fires were burning across New South Wales. That is the country's most populous state. 14 were rated out of control, the most in decades. And officials warned that it could get worse.
Given the forecast for very high and likely severe conditions ahead as we head into this weekend, and another really hot burst of air coming through New South Wales on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we simply aren't going to get the upper hand on all of these fires.
The fires have destroyed at least 150 homes since Friday amid some of the warmest conditions in a century. Back in this country, former President Jimmy Carter is recovering after surgery to relieve pressure on his brain. It was caused by bleeding from a recent fall. A spokeswoman said that Mr. Carter is resting comfortably at a hospital in Atlanta after a procedure with what she said were no complications. He is 95 and the oldest ex-president ever. Republican Mark Sanford has ended his bid for the Republican presidential nomination just 2 months after he began. The former South Carolina governor and congressman had hoped to challenge President Trump, but he says impeachment has made it impossible to get the public's attention. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has elected its first Hispanic leader, Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez. He was chosen today at the conference meeting in Baltimore. Gomez was born in Mexico and has been a strong advocate for a more welcoming U.S. immigration policy. A frigid air mass from Siberia brought deep cold across much of the eastern United States today. Commuters in Chicago braved single digits, while parts of upstate New York got record snow. Even southern states like Tennessee saw a blanketing of snow and chills. Southwest Airlines is facing a January 31st deadline to inspect dozens of used Boeing 737s that it bought from foreign airlines. That is after the Federal Aviation Administration threatened to ground the jetliners. It's been reported that they may not have needed repairs, have had needed repairs, or had repairs that were never documented. Southwest insists that the aircraft are safe. And on Wall Street, in a rare occurrence, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was unchanged, but the Nasdaq rose 21 points and the S&P 500 added 4. Still to come on the NewsHour, open impeachment hearings start tomorrow. Who is testifying and why it matters? Families of shooting victims score a fresh victory in their fight to hold gun makers accountable for mass killings. How we got here, the timeline that took us to the precipice of impeachment, and much more. A correction to a story we reported earlier tonight. We said that a protester in Hong Kong yesterday was shot dead by police. In fact, that protester is still alive, but in serious condition. Our apology.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.